Hi guys, how's it going? This is Resident of Colwood for YouTube, and I'm continuing my review of Remains of Judgment, a Dark Shadow story. Chapter 5. Dr. Shaw poured some ice water and took a glass over to Alan, who was sitting upright, hyperventilating. His forehead and shirt were drenched in sweat. Placing the glass in Alan's hand, the ice rattled violently as Alan's shaking fingers struggled to grip the glass. Please drink it. You're perspiring and you're going to get dehydrated. You have to get some fluid back in you, Dr. Shaw pleaded. Alan felt himself nearly choking as he tried to swallow. He dropped the glass, spilling the water on the floor as he buried his face in his hands. His knees shook furiously as he tried to relax and calm down. The two men sat in silence as Alan's breathing slowed gradually over the next few minutes. After staring at the floor, Alan lifted his head up and his eyes began burning from tears staining them as they formed. Dr. Shaw picked his chair up from the floor and sat down in front of his patient. He tilted his head sideways as he spoke in a soft tone. Alan, are you okay? Alan took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. I don't know. I don't know what to do. About what? The doctor asked. About Victoria, he answered. This all doesn't make sense. I see all these things. I see Victoria, the little girl, Laura. I see her parents. I can tell something terrible happened there. Victoria said something to me when you lost me. You remember the light where I'm safe? Dr. Shaw nodded. She told me I can't get anything done by only observing. She wanted me to leave the circle. There was something she needed me to do. Alan reclined in his chair. She said she was trying to save me and my family, the whole tragedy of Laura's childhood, and Victoria's experience with them doesn't make sense or seem to have anything to do with me. I feel like I need to complete this and see the rest of what she was trying to tell me. But, Alan paused. Yes? Question mark. The doctor urged. But what? Victoria said she was using the last of her energy to show me what happened at that house. Our connection was broken. What if I can't get back to her? I'm so stupid. I had to have done something wrong. Alan stood up to his feet, pacing in aggravated movements. Hey, Dr. Shaw stood up and faced him. You can't call yourself out like that for something that you're not prepared for. This isn't a common everyday thing that people face, Alan. This is some pretty complicated stuff. You're a special person and have been chosen by Victoria to help her. Out of the billions of men and women walking this earth, she chose to establish the connection with you. That's nothing stupid. There's nothing stupid about you. This is about a higher calling. You were chosen for. You have to see this through to the end. You'll never be able to forgive yourself if you walk away now. What makes you think I'm going to walk away? Alan snapped. I can see it in your eyes, Shaw replied. You're very conflicted. If I ignore this, I'll probably never get my family back. This nightmare will continue until I have a complete breakdown and lose myself. I'll never get to see my baby grow up. Alan shook his head and sat back down on the chair. I have to do this. I have to help Victoria and Laura. Well, remember, you can't change the events of the past. You're not time traveling, remember, Dr. Shaw reminded him. I know how people like you go out of your way to help other people you don't even know, but I don't know if you can actually help her with what she's showing you. She needs you to listen, to see and hear her whole story. I'm not sure what they are, but she has her reasons. Alan nodded in agreement. With a deep sigh, Alan conceded. Are we ready? I think I exiled myself so much that I can, exhausted. I'm sorry. Exhausted myself so much that I can fall back asleep pretty easily. Dr. Shaw grabbed the metronome and started it again. Let's see this through to the end. Alan leaned back and closed his eyes as the doctor spoke. Close your eyes and relax, Alan. Clear your mind of everything but the concentration of your breathing. As I start counting backwards, you're going to feel relaxed again. Breathe deeply and slowly. 10, 9, 8, 7. Shaw quietly commanded. Alan's breathing became heavier and slow. His body began to feel light and warm. Focus on the light forming around you. As long as you're inside, you're safe. You feel calm and very safe inside. 6, 5, 4. Shaw observed Alan's body falling limp as he spoke. Remember, if at any time you want to return, open your eyes. Focus on the sights around you. 3, 2, 1. A haze of images and words swirled in front of him. Alan could see the house come into view again. The evening sky formed a dark huddle around him as he focused on the foliage of the wooded area fading into existence. Although he felt safe inside the circle of light, something was missing. Victoria. Victoria, are you here? Alan called out. Alan, it's Shaw. Can you hear me? A voice echoed above him. Yes, I can hear you, Alan answered. Do you see Victoria? Where are you? Dr. Shaw asked, his pen and paper in hand, turning his head from side to side as he searched. Alan replied, I'm back here in the woods. I see the house, Laura's house. I can't find Victoria. It's okay, just concentrate on where you are. Let her come to you. If she's able, just focus on you and what you're seeing this time. Shaw directed. Follow the path you feel you should. Do what feels right. Okay, I will. Moving forward toward the house, Alan moved with the light surrounding him. He thought he saw something off to the side of the home, so he walked around the side and saw a shadow moving on the ground. Moving in for a closer look, he could make the outline of the shadow look a lot like Laura. He spoke to her. Laura, is that you? Silence. Laura, can you hear me? Alan repeated. The shadow stood there in still silence. Dr. Shaw. Alan looked upward as he called out. I'm here. What is happening? Shaw questioned. I believe Laura is here. I can only see her shadow. She can't seem to hear me. And if she's trying to communicate with me, I can't hear or see her either, he answered. Without Victoria there, you might not be able to communicate with them. Remember, you're seeing moving pictures from the past. You can't change what you're seeing, Shaw reminded, sir. Sighing in frustration, Alan answered, Yeah, I know, but I'm feeling something different this time. I'm feeling something like deja vu. Very strong deja vu. I felt it before when I had nightmares before, but not anywhere close to this magnitude. Deja vu, I don't understand how what you're seeing is from centuries ago. You're not a revenant like Victoria, Alan. She held memories of each time she lived in with no interruption. Shaw struggled to reason as his hands furiously scribbled to try and keep up. I can't change anything by being an observer. I have to take off the training wheels. That's what Victoria told me. She's not here, but her words are. She told me what I needed to do, Alan nodded. It's time for me to step out again. Dr. Shaw sat in stunned silence for a few seconds. Alan, I'm waking you up. It's too dangerous. Let's regroup and rethink this. Maybe we can try again tomorrow. You told me to do what I thought was right. Tomorrow could be too late. For Victoria, maybe it's too late right now. I don't know until I try again. I have to do this. Bye, Doc. Alan retorted. As he left the circle of light behind him, just like before, it vanished as quickly as Dr. Shaw's voice of protest began. When he turned around, the shadow in front of him began to take form. Laura's image came into full view. She was looking forward, and her eyes grew wide with fear. As she ran around to the front of the house, Alan heard the sound of the door slamming. Laura, he exclaimed, you don't have to be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you. He followed the girl inside her house as she ran inside to hide, looking out the window. He saw Lilith walking primly alongside a strangely dressed native-looking man coming around the picket fence. The little girl ran into the bedroom and hid under the loft bed, tucking herself into the corner of the room. Lilith burst through the door, calling out her name and searching frantically for her. Laura! Laura! You will come out this instant. You cannot hide from me. Lilith turned around toward the man with her. Hacking searched the bedroom. Search every inch of this house until you find her. I don't have much time. Lilith and the native man, Hakim, began tearing up the house and turning things over, shouting for her as they ransacked the home. The man reached the mattress and pulled it aside, revealing the crying child, clutching a rag doll and pressing herself back in the corner. As far as she could, Lilith reached her hand down and grabbed Laura by her hair and dragged her out from her hiding place. The man grabbed Laura's feet, and together he and Lilith dragged her across the floor to the front door. With her free hand, Lilith opened the door. Laura was screaming, begging for help, crying out for Victoria. Alan ran out the door and tried in vain to grab Laura and fend off her assailants. His hands and arms went through them, as if they were indeed ghosts. He could only watch the child being abused and follow them. Laura was dragged to a stone slab that appeared to be fashioned like an altar and tied down where ropes were secured through metal rings that were fixed into the sides. A lantern was thrown open, and Lilith began laughing as she struggled to tie a gag around Laura's mouth. Lifting her hands in the air, she began chanting and speaking an unfamiliar language, repeated rapidly. Hagen grabbed a mortar and pestle from his frock and began throwing ingredients from a bag he had secured on his person and began grinding them together furiously as Lilith chanted. Making his way toward Laura as Lilith chanted more intensely, Haken removed her gag and dumped the mixture into the child's mouth, forcing her to swallow. He replaced the gag after he was satisfied that the drug had been ingested. Laura screaming into the gag and struggled furiously to get free, but was unable to break the strength of the binds holding her. Suddenly, a bright signal of a large winged bird was signed into the bark of the trees surrounding her. At this moment, Lilith grabbed a pitcher of oil and poured it onto the altar and onto Laura's struggling body. Hakim grabbed the lantern, and at the climax, Lilith's chant smashed it against the altar, quickly igniting the oil and Laura in a roaring blaze. Laura screamed and cried in pain as her body was engulfed in flames. Her arms and legs kicked furiously, trying to break free. Lilith laughed and began bowing down at the altar, and Hakeem followed her lead. Laura! Alan shouted, horrified by Laura's sudden immolation. Through the smoke of the flames of the altar, Alan saw a woman running toward them. It was Victoria. No! Lilith shouted out, pulling a dagger from a stitched pocket on the front of her dress. Victoria struggled with Lilith and pushed her away. Hakeem leaped to his feet and pulled Victoria to the ground with a quick dive. Lilith plunged the dagger deep into Victoria's chest with angered fury. Lilith stabbed her repeatedly as Hakeem held her down. Victoria struggled to fend her off her attackers with bloodied hands and arms, but each new wound weakened her until all life was gone from her body. Suddenly, Laura's bonds were free, and she stood on the altar and began staring at Lilith and Hakeem and the lifeless body of her beloved governess. Laura's body levitated above the altar with her arm outward, much like the shape of a bird spreading her wings. Hakeem and Lilith cowered in fear. With a quick flash, Laura's flame-covered body dove forward toward Lilith and smashed her against a tree, cracking several bones in Lilith's spine. Laura embraced her and would not let go. Crying out in pain, Lilith's body began to burn because of her injuries sustained from the brute force of Laura's attack. She could only crawl as the flames engulfed her until she collapsed, burning to death. Hakeem had taken off running through the woods, but fire quickly began spreading around him everywhere he turned. In seconds, the entire wooded area surrounding the house had become an inferno. Hakeem fell to the ground, gasping for air as thick smoke filled his lungs. He quickly lost consciousness and fell onto the ground. Burning trees began falling all around Alan, and he found himself with nowhere to turn. The heat, the flames, the billowing smoke became too much for him. He turned blindly every direction, but there were only dead ends. Coughing furiously, he felt himself losing all coordination and falling onto the burning ground beneath him. So that's chapter 5, guys, of Remains of Judgment. Really well written. The Twitter handle @_Barnabas. He did such a really good job. I love how he's used, like, Dream Warriors. They, cause the kids to fall asleep using what Mark is describing. Like, you see the thing going back and forth like this. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. I'm not good with most pronunciation. So, really just amazing job. I like how, Dr. Shaw wakes him up, and then Dr. Shaw thinks he's scared, but Alan's like, no, I'm ready to face this now. So that's really a great sign of a, protagonist, because some protagonists, you do meet aren't so willing to face something after seeing it because there's a fear of it. But after, it's like, no, there's this kid in danger, and he wants to help her, just like Victoria wants to help her. I really like that. I love the psychology of this. It's dark and really well written, and really, really good. I enjoy it. Link will be in the description box for this, guys. I'm going to turn around and do another read along. Hope you enjoyed the read along and review.